when President Carter gave it away to Panama. Americans were puzzled, confused, and many outraged. With the passage of time, many have lost sight of the canal's importance, both to national security and to the U.S. economy. Not President Trump. But the Panama Canal was not just given away. President Carter struck a bargain. He made a treaty. And President Trump is making a serious and substantive argument that that treaty is being violated right now. This committee has jurisdiction under the Senate rules over the Panama Canal, and today we will examine evidence of potential violations. President Trump has highlighted two key issues. Number one, the danger of China exploiting or blocking passage through the canal. And number two, the exorbitant costs for transit.
What steps can be taken to minimize disruptions and prevent cascading costs for consumers during periods of operational strain?
At the Panama Canal?
Yes.
I mean, the main thing is that, companies, importers and exporters need to make sure that they have very resilient supply chains. Depending on any one sea lane is awfully risky in this very, very difficult to predict world. It's one of the reasons why the Panama Canal is so important. In fact, it may be a bigger reason than a particular transit or line transit is the fact that it is there in case something goes wrong on the other end of the world, say, for instance, the Suez Canal, right? And it's that lack of redundancy right now that has been a big problem. And frankly, one of the reasons why shipping costs have gone up, because if you have to go all the way around Africa or go all the way around the Americas, you are taking fewer ships.
Is China operating the Panama Canal?
Chairman, Senator Kim, I never discredit anything that President Trump says.
Well, I guess I would ask
he has a different briefing book than I do. Mm-hmm. What I can say is that the Panama Canal is operated, as far as I know, by the ACP, the Panama Canal Authority, mm-hmm. and they're very efficient at operating the canal on the throughput that they're able to do.
So you're saying, from your knowledge, you don't know of reasoning to believe that China is operating the Panama Canal, from the knowledge that you have?
From the knowledge that I have on whether the, Senator, what we have here is the Panama Canal Authority is the authority where people will pay into the Panama Canal.
Mm-hmm.
What is the sentiment among the people for how they feel about America?
Senator, I have many friends and family and professional relationships in Panama, and the bond between the United States and Panama is very deep. It's almost like the United States and Great Britain, for example. The Panamanians love baseball. They love basically a lot of the same things that we do. The people are absolutely wonderful.
But what is the impact of these transnational gangs, this increase in human and drug trafficking doing to maritime activity along the canal?
Senator, the Darien Gap is one of the most dangerous treks that I think anybody can do, and thank God for the new policy that we have on migrants and people coming into the country, because countless people have been harmed, died, or even very bad things happen to them through there. On transnational gangs, I mean, anytime that there's money in a black market, they're going to go ahead and they're going to fill that void. So hopefully, as I understand, the Darien Gap is not being utilized very much right now because people are coming to the United States and now cannot come in.
What are the most blatant? What are the most obvious? Is it the unfair, is it the fact that we're being charged more? Is it the fact that these are Chinese-owned companies that are controlled by the CCP? What are the top 2 or 3 reasons that you would argue that they are in fact in violation of the treaty?
So again, I think the charges and fees are less of an issue because they don't discriminate across countries. We pay more because we use more, but it's not nationally discriminatory. The presence of Chinese companies, especially Chinese state companies, but not limited to them, do raise serious issues and concerns for the neutrality of the treaty. And I should point out, in relation to some of the earlier questioning, the canal, for purposes of the neutrality treaty, is not limited just to the actual locks of the canal and the transit of the of ships to the canal. According to Annex 1, Paragraph 1 of the treaty, it includes also the entrances of the canal and the territorial sea of Panama adjacent to it. So all of the activities we're talking about are within the neutrality regime, the geographic scope of the neutrality regime in the treaty.
Do you think fundamentally the problem here is that America's just failed to engage properly with Latin America?
Yes, I do. I believe that we have not had a presence there for long enough. The State Department has designated countless past Panamanian presidents for corruption, but we haven't had the DOJ go ahead and have any convictions on those. I think that if we did have a conviction one way or another, I think that that would change the narrative quite considerably.
If that territory was completely controlled, protected by the United States of America, what influence could we have in solving a variety of problems, the shipping ones that we've talked about, but also having U.S. presence with military backup there in Panama, preventing transnational organizations, preventing human trafficking, preventing drug trafficking? Wouldn't that be celebrated among the free world as something that would be absolutely a net huge positive to that area?
Well, I can say this, that is probably one of the top contraband areas in the world just because of its geographical location and the amount of containers that they move. So I think any time that we can lower the amount of contraband being distributed around the world, we'd be doing a good service.
If China chose to, how fast could they close the canal to our usage?
Well, they could probably do a similar thing, but it would more be an act of terrorism than it would be because they have facilities there. Most of this discussion has involved the economic threats that China is bringing up because of the Belt and Road Initiative and having these investments in other countries. But yeah, I mean, it's not hard to close off a waterway. Panama Canal is actually quite vulnerable in terms of infrastructure. It's not, this is not a fort or militarily reinforced location. Now you're getting to the end of my knowledge of that. But no, it would not take long, but I don't know what it has to do with. It's not accelerated because they have people at other port, unless you believe that they're, in theory, it's easier to infiltrate those ports with Chinese spies than it is other kinds of things. But that's totally out of my purview.